Rick Dale and his crew were the best people to bring old things found in the attic back to their original shape and beauty. They were so good that it led to the hit reality TV show The American Restoration. While the show was on, it was a big hit, and everyone was looking through their attics for their next prize. Even though he was good and interesting, things went badly when the show was canceled in 2016. A lot of people are still thinking about what happened and why the show was ended. A terrible accident was the start of it all, and many people still don't know this. We will look at the events that led to the terrible accident and why that was the last straw that ended the American Restoration for good in today's video. But we can't talk about the American Restoration without mentioning Rick Dale, the person who built it. Unlike many people, Rick Dale has loved old things since he was a child. As he grew up, he was surrounded by many that he loved to fix up. He worked in repair for a long time before TV became popular. Rick was born on December 13th, 1970, in Newport Beach, California. He grew up in a home that pushed him to think outside the box and find solutions to problems. Rick's father, who was in the Army, encouraged this interest by telling him and his brother Ron over and over again that they should fix things instead of getting new parts. Rick has always been naturally curious. As a child, he would often take things apart at home and put them back together again later. He was especially interested in old things because he was amazed by how beautiful they were and how well they worked. In his teens, Rick paid close attention to details and began by fixing up bikes, old tools, and other things. Rick got his start in the repair business as a hobby. After high school, he did a few different odd jobs, but he never stopped loving fixing things up. He fixed up an old Coke machine for his dad as his first big job. Friends and neighbors asked him to do similar work because it went so well, which gave him the idea to turn his pleasure into a business. Rick chose to take a chance in the late 1980s and open Rick's Restorations in Las Vegas, Nevada. At first, the business was small and focused on selling old electronics and collectibles. Over time, Rick became known for paying close attention to every detail and being able to make old, broken things work again. His work became known among collectors, and the number of people who bought from him slowly increased. He became famous on the History Channel, which led to his show American Restoration. Before that, Rick Dale's business, Rick's Restorations, was a quiet but successful one in Las Vegas, Nevada. It wasn't flashy or well known outside of collector groups, but it got a good name for being well done and with good attention to detail. Rick was an expert at fixing up old Americana, especially things that made people feel very nostalgic. Coca-Cola machines, jukeboxes, gas pumps, light signs, and old items were some of the things he worked on. These weren't just fixes on the surface. Rick made sure that every piece did what it was supposed to do and looked like it did when it was first made. The shop itself was a simple, useful place to work. Every step of the repair process had its own area. Taking apart, fixing, painting, and putting together again. A lot of work went into each item, as shown by the old tools, parts, and half-done projects that lined the shelves. Back then, it wasn't a shopping mall or a tourist spot, it was just a place to get things done. Rick's main customers were private collectors, small business owners, and antique sellers who were looking for one-of-a-kind items. He wasn't well known across the country yet, but his name was well known in the area and among people who were interested in restoring old things. It was easy for Rick to get jobs because he was trustworthy, skilled, and really cared about preserving the past of each piece. It wasn't easy to run this kind of business. A lot of the things Rick worked on were in bad shape when they first came into the shop. A lot of rust, broken, and missing parts. It was very hard to find new parts for things that were decades old. Rick had to make parts from scratch sometimes to make sure they were right. Some things were hard to do and took a long time, but the end result always spoke for itself. Rick made a name for himself in the restoration world after TV directors found him. They saw how much he loved his job and the stories behind the things he fixed up, which is what started the American Restoration. After the show, Rick's skill in shop got a lot more attention. But before the show, it was just a shop run by a guy who loved giving old things a new life. If there is one show that brings things back to life with lots of stories that make them taste better, it's American Restoration. An interesting History Channel show called Pawn Stars is the start of the story of how American Restoration came to be. A Las Vegas pawn shop was the setting for Pawn Stars. People brought all sorts of unique old things to sell or loan. Some of these things were really broken and needed to be fixed up before they were worth anything. That's where Rick Dale came in. He already owned and ran Rick's Restorations, a business that did repairs. It was known as one of the best in its field. The Pawn Stars team needed someone to fix up an old Coca-Cola machine one day. When they called Rick, he did a great job. Not only did Rick do a great job on the machine, but he also explained what he was doing with a lot of energy and skill. The people who work for the Past Channel loved how Rick could talk about the item's past and show how hard it was to make it look brand new. They thought Rick could have his own show that was only about fixing things up. This is how they told him about it. A show that followed Rick and his crew as they fixed up old things like light signs, gas pumps, and jukeboxes. In each episode, they would show step by step how to fix up something old and broken and make it beautiful and useful again. But it wouldn't just be about the work, they would also talk about the people who brought in the items and why they were important to them. It was quickly filmed because Rick liked the idea. When American Restoration first aired in October 2010, it was a big hit right away. People who watched loved seeing these amazing changes and learning about the things past. The show was even more fun because of Rick's zeal, his skilled team, and the way he interacts with his wife Kelly and son Tyler. The last part of every episode was a big showing of the fixed item to the customer, who was almost always amazed. Many people really liked the show because of that moment of surprise and happiness. Rick and his team were the stars of American Restoration for 6 years. Many people from all over the world sent their things to Las Vegas in the hopes that Rick could make them disappear after the show. People watched the first 6 seasons of American Restoration to get to know Rick Dale and his staff at Rick's Restorations, a shop in Las Vegas that restores old things to life. The series quickly became a favorite among fans of nostalgia and restoration because it had expert workmanship, interesting characters, and heartfelt stories. People got to know Rick's shop and the people who do the work in the first season. Every episode showed how a different old thing, like a gas pump or a barber chair, was fixed up. When people brought in pieces, they were often very personal or important to history, and Rick's team worked hard to make sure that their repairs honored those stories. Tyler, Rick's preteen son, worked in the shop. He was still learning the trade, but his laid-back attitude sometimes irritated his dad. Ron, Rick's brother and a slow but skilled picker, and Brettley, Rick's grandson, and a funny character with a soft spot for people who mess up. They worked together as a team, and their relationship made the show funnier and warmer. The projects got more varied and difficult as the show went on. Customers brought in everything from neon signs to old stoves, and Rick would sometimes buy things to fix up and sell. By adding Rick's tips, the show became both educational and enjoyable, as viewers could learn how to fix things up. During these times, family relationships were more important. Kelly, Rick's wife, ran the business side of the shop. She kept the team organized and dealt with customers. In a memorable show, Rick also asked Kelly to marry him, which made the moment more personal and touched viewers. At the same time, Tyler was promoted to shop manager, which caused some disagreements on the team. By the middle seasons, Rick's repairs were running like clockwork. There were often 6 to 12 projects going on at once in the shop. These could be anything from toy trains to custom motorbikes. Nico, a painter, and Leonard, a picker who loved looking for buried treasures, were among the experts on Rick's growing team. Long-time workers like Kyle, the finisher, and Cowboy, the rough but skilled metal cleaner, were still very important to the shop's success. Even though the team had a lot of skills, their different personalities made things interesting. Rick's patience was often put to the test by Ron's slow work pace and Cowboy's bad mood. Bretley began to show that he was a good picker. In one episode, he surprised everyone with how well he could run a sale. Rick kept a mix between expecting the best and making sure everyone felt like family. American Restoration was really going strong by the 6th season. The team worked on some of their biggest and most difficult projects yet. Each repair showed how skilled and creative they were. The stories behind the things stayed at the center, highlighting how emotionally connected customers are with their belongings. As Tyler took on more responsibility and Bretley became more sure of his skills, the shop also grew. Kelly's work as a manager kept the company on track, making sure Rick's artistic ideas could grow. The first 6 seasons of American Restoration were great because they showed skill, history, and heart. The personalities of Rick Dale's team matched his love for repair. Their quirks and relationships gave the show more depth. Every show celebrated the magic of giving old things a new life, from the amazing changes that were made to rusted antiques to the touching reactions of viewers. Even though the show moved on to other repair shops, Rick's Restorations is still a well-known and loved part of reality TV. It wasn't just about getting things fixed. It was about using the art of repair to keep stories alive, honor history, and make people happy. But tragedy struck in the 7th season. The History Channel changed a lot in season 7. They chose to include several repair shops from across the country instead of just Rick Dale and his team at Rick's Restorations. It was meant to show more range and give new ideas about restoration. But this change took the attention away from Rick, who was the show's big draw. People who liked the first show were let down because they cared about Rick's shop and his team. Viewers of American Restoration began to drop over time, as they do with many reality TV shows. People's tastes change over time, so after a few seasons, viewers may have moved on or quit regularly watching. With different shops being shown, the show's new direction didn't bring back the same crowd, and it was hard for the show to keep the attention it had before. There were a lot of shows on TV that were like American Restoration by the time it got to the end of its run. The show's Pawn Stars, American Pickers, Counting Cars, and others were all about restoring old things and collecting them. That meant American Restoration had less room to stand out. There were so many other shows like it that it lost some of its originality over time, and viewers may have thought they'd seen enough of this kind of material. Real-life shows are very pricey to make. The actors need to be paid, the props need to be put back where they belong, and the costs rely on when the filming and editing are done. Even if the show gets good numbers, advertisers may not be able to make enough money from it, and networks may not be able to support the production. It's possible that when the number of viewers started going down, the network decided it wasn't worth the money to keep funding the show. Sometimes, networks want to change how they schedule shows and try out different types of shows. They might have decided that they didn't want to make any more restoration shows, or they might have thought that American Restoration could only go so far. It is normal for some TV shows to be replaced by new ones at some point in the future. This happens because viewers' tastes change and TV stations have to adapt to new situations. Many ideas have been put forward about why Rick and his team were not on the show during the 7th season, but neither the producers nor Rick have said anything for sure. And of course, no one could figure out why. While the fans were still not sure what had happened, Rick made a video asking them to show their anger by going to the official American Restoration website. However, he never said why he and his team are no longer there. Hey. After years of working on soda machines and old cars for a living, the star of American Restoration has moved on to new projects. Rick's Restorations is closed right now, but there are reports that it might open again in the future in a different place, but Rick won't be in charge. Rick has tried new things since the show ended. For example, he started a company called My Best Font Forward Creations that does laser cutting and embroidery. He has also written a book called Classic Soda Machines, which you can get on Amazon. Rick loves spending time with his wife Kelly, their kids, and their grandchildren. He is enjoying family life again after taking a break from the repair business. Rick Dale's son Tyler Dale was on the show when he was a teenager. He was supposed to take over the family business one day. Even though it looked like he might become a doctor like his dad, Tyler has decided to stay in the repair world. He keeps using the craft skills he has learned. He knows how to iron, work with metal, and use a water jet, but he hasn't been very active on social media since 2021. In his last posts, he talked about some of the projects he worked on, such as classic and muscle cars. Tyler has also worked with charities like Vegas Shepherd Rescue and Camp Possibility. It's not clear where he is or what's going on in his personal life, but he seems to still be working on his art and making a difference in his community. Brettley Otterman, Rick's grandson, was known on the show for taking on the boring jobs that other people didn't want to do. But Brettley quickly became known for his sandblasting skills, and after the show he chose to make a business out of them. He bought a Las Vegas mobile sandblasting business that was failing, and now his company, CleanWorks Mobile Media Blasting, is doing very well. The business now has 3 blasting rigs, and Brettley has made a good living by using his skills. He lives in Las Vegas with his wife Steph and their 3 kids. He enjoys being with his family while also building his business. Cowboy was one of the first people on Rick's team. He was known for being skilled and rough. Cowboy didn't want to be famous like many of the other contestants did, and he hasn't been seen much since the show finished. He has not been seen in public and does not have any public social media accounts. People think that Cowboy is having a quiet life, maybe on a farm. Not in the public eye at all. His amazing skills and desire to keep his personal life private are things that fans of the show remember about him. After the show, Ron Dale, Rick's younger brother, changed careers and now enjoys making handmade bicycles. He spends his time in his shop at home making one-of-a-kind bikes. He has happy memories of his time on TV. Ron seems happy with his quieter, more private life and is enjoying his new hobby of building bikes. Kelly Dale, Rick's wife, was very important behind the scenes on the show. She did everything from paying the bills to dealing with customers. As of the end of American Restoration, Kelly has been working in real estate and has done very well there. She has also kept up a strong social media presence and sometimes hosts car shows. Kelly is also on the board of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Even though she has a family and runs a business, her entrepreneurial energy still shines through. Kyle Astorga used to work at Rick's Restorations, taking apart and putting back together different projects. He has since changed his job goals and is now focusing on something completely different. Kyle became a hunter and guide after leaving the world of restoration. He worked on more than 45,000 acres of land in New Mexico's Cimarron Valley. As a former rodeo performer, he knows how to handle bulls and broncos, which has made him a skilled trainer. He likes living in the woods, away from the noise and stress of social media and the spotlight. There are times when the story doesn't have to end badly, even though many people still love the show. Rick, Dale, and the rest of the crew are okay, but it's too bad that the show had to stop.